This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and the Becker Business Podcast. We're thrilled today to be joined by brilliant speaker and leader, Liz Hutson. She's going to talk to us about, I think, one of the most interesting subjects in business and in team building and everything, which is this concept of how do you decide whether somebody or a plan or an effort should be continued or not? When do you abandon it? When do you double down on it? How do you think about it? Liz, let me ask you to take a second to introduce yourself and also introduce the topic more fully.
Absolutely, Scott. Great to talk with you. Yeah, my name is Liz Hutson, and I am the founder and principal consultant of EGH. We focus on healthcare products and services. We are a consulting firm. We mostly focus on the private equity space. And today I thought we'd talk about this idea of something that every leader really eventually faces, which is that moment when someone on your team just isn't on the bus, right? You've done everything right. All the things that we've talked about here in this podcast before and a number of areas before, where you're working to gain alignment. You meet the people where they are. You've listened to the key stakeholders. You've built the future state together so that everyone has a voice in the plan, but you still have one person who just refuses to get on board. And they may not just be passively not on board. They may be actively not on board. They're naysaying. They're steering the conversation sidewise. They're dropping snarky comments or just quietly under-delivering to the detriment of the team. So what do you do when someone just won't get on the bus? And that's where I thought we'd spend some time today, Scott.
Thank you. And how do you deal with that? At what point do you cut the cord? At what time do you how do you think about that? Or can you rehabilitate the person or get them on the bus? How do you think about that?
Yeah. I like what you just said, the rehabilitation, right? I do like to see if we can give them one more shot, right? We've had the conversation with the broad team, with the broad organization, but I love to, as a leader, start with one final honest attempt at alignment. That's the first thing, right? Have a one-on-one conversation, a real one with them, where we're asking them, what's driving this misalignment? Is there something that we've missed? Is there a suggestion maybe that they could offer that would make the plan better and help them re-engage? Because sometimes they just need to feel heard. Sometimes they need clarity. They need that one-on-one guidance on that. And sometimes they really do have an idea that when they're heard might actually improve the path forward. But in this conversation, this last shot, I think it's important to be transparent that their lack of alignment is slowing the team down. It's hurting morale, and it just can't continue. This is really kind of the last stop before we've got to make some decisions.
Thank you. And at what point do you say we're done? What are triggers that cause you to say we're done, it's time to move on? Person's taking a spot, they're not producing, or they're just causing more trouble than they're worth. At what point do you say we're just done?
We're just done, right? Yeah, I think hopefully you get some insights in that one-on-one, and they're honest about it, and they're saying, hey, listen, I just can't get up on board with this, and you have a mutually understood conversation of like, we just need to part ways. Perhaps they say in their words, yes, I'm on board, I'm going to be there, but you continue to see behavior that's still not aligned after that one last ditch effort. Now is the time where you say, that's it, right? This part isn't fun, Scott, right? This isn't easy for any leader to have to make this call. And it's not something to take lightly because it brings discomfort for everyone, for you, for the team, for the individual. And you're also losing a contributor. You're losing a set of hands. You're losing the tribal knowledge. You might have to take on extra work yourself or slow the project down a little bit. But the truth is, if you've made every effort to align on that and the misalignment is still there, keeping them in that role certainly does more long-term damage than letting them go or moving them to a different project within the organization. And I think we just have to be thoughtful. We have to be objective, and we have to be firm because sometimes it's really the healthiest thing for everyone, just letting that person hop off the bus.
Thank you very, very much. And right, at some point, there's always this concept when you get rid of somebody who's not aligned or not contributing, there's always that feeling of relief in addition by subtraction. And I know there might be some guilt in feeling that way, but it seems to me when I've let go of a team member that wasn't really producing or didn't really want to produce, or for whatever reason, it always feels like a lift off the shoulders. You talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I think it is an initial sting. It does feel not great for everybody. But to your point, once that decision is made and you move quickly, and you need to move quickly on that, because first of all, that employee probably isn't happy when they're doing something that they're not on board with. Their morale isn't there, right? They disagree with the direction every day that they're in that role. It's frustrating for them. You're not getting their best work, and you're not doing them any favors by prolonging that. But the other thing, and this is important, is that it's not good for the team morale either. Like you said, it's a lift off the shoulders when that thing that's pulling back the team is removed, when everyone else is aligned, working hard, they're pushing forward, and that one person refuses to engage. That misalignment actually can become contagious. It drags people down. It causes mistrust, and it sends a message to the team that this kind of behavior of not being aligned and not being on board is tolerated. And often it's better actually to have no one in that role than having someone who's actively or passively resisting. A fully aligned team, a team that's just genuinely everybody's on the bus, is one of the strongest predictors of whether a project is going to succeed or fail.
And talk for a second about this. Sometimes you get rid of somebody and the person is well liked by others in the company, but at the same time just isn't doing their job or isn't producing. How do you manage some of the fallout from that when that happens?
Yeah, that's an important question, because while you have that situation where that person has moved off the project, maybe to a different part of the organization, or maybe outside the organization altogether, there is a little bit of a feeling, surely, of other people around the team that wonder, hey, am I next? Right? Is it possible that I'm going to be exited from this bus as well? But here in this particular situation that we're talking about, it's not that this individual is necessarily a bad person or doesn't do good work. It's that they weren't aligned with what the team was trying to do, what the organization was trying to do. So I think making sure that people really understand that the rationale, the reason for this is actually synergistic to everybody, and then coming back and reaffirming them of like, the rest of us, we are on board with what's happening here. We are all aligned and committed to that same goal. So coming back and reaffirming the team, I think, is a very important, quick next step.
Thank you. And what about the situation where not so much people are worried that they might be next, but they're collegially upset because that was one of their colleagues in the place that they liked, that they were friendly with. Sometimes you have low performers or performers that hang out together, and sometimes not just the issue of they feel they might be next, but they're like, oh, that was my buddy, that was my friend.
Yeah.
Do you come across that? Because we certainly come across that some.
Yeah, sure. It's a tough one, and I think yes, it's great when we have a camaraderie within the team. Within an organization that is strong and it's solid, and it makes coming to work fun, right? It makes it fun when you're working with people that you enjoy. And at the end of the day, as we are put together on a team for a common shared purpose, we're there for that common shared purpose. And so I think, it's a little bit of like, you can continue to be friends and have that social interaction outside of work, but being friends at work, like, you're not looking for your family, you're not looking for your friends at work. It's nice when that happens, but that's not the primary objective there. You guys are all in a shared organization moving towards a shared common goal on this. And you want to have a good team camaraderie, but the team camaraderie doesn't come before the purpose of why that team came together in the first place. So I think it's a little bit of a conversation, a hard conversation sometimes that we have to have with our team to say, yes, I feel you. We miss them too. This was not personal. This really just had to do with our inability to be successful with that individual on the team. And so we had to make a change so that the total team could be successful.
Thank you. No, we couldn't agree more. Liz, I love this subject. I love the thoughts. It's always a challenging thing. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity, the Becker Business Podcast. You're one of the best there is. We really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Scott. Always such a pleasure. Thank you.